MAGA Mike has done it again, shutting down the House floor at 2:03 a.m. on Friday morning and saying, we ain't going to be working on the House floor as members of Congress until Monday at 12 p.m. in the afternoon. If you take a look at the minutes, as I've been analyzing from the House clerk, you'll see what went down at 2 a.m. in the morning, 2:10 a.m. in 3 seconds to be exact. The House adjourned pursuant to a previous special order. The next meeting is scheduled for 12 p.m. on April 20th, 2026. And if you delve a little bit deeper into what happened, there was a unanimous consent motion that the House would be adjourned on Friday morning at basically at 2 a.m. so people would stop working until Monday. Now, there was hearing still in the House of Representatives and the Senate. We've been covering those. But in terms of votes on the House floor, MAGA Mike shut that down. And I don't know what vote may be significant on the House floor. I don't know, maybe assert your Article 1 authority to stop Donald Trump from engaging in this unlawful and catastrophic war as Donald Trump pretends that Iran opened up the Strait of Hormuz and there's free access. And guess what? According to Donald Trump, American military excavators working side by side with their friends, the Iranian excavators, and they're going to find that nuclear dust together. They're putting in a little nuclear dust bin. They're bringing it back to the United States. One problem, everything false. Ships ain't leaving the Strait of Hormuz. There's no free access through it. Iran controls it with an iron fist. Iran ain't giving up their uranium. Donald Trump just lied about everything. But guess what? He called up a lot of reporters. He called up CBS and he called up NBC and Reuters and NewsNation and this one and that one and Axios. And they all just said, Donald Trump said, Donald Trump said. Do you see the coordinated plan right here? Let me spell it out for you. MAGA Mike shuts down the House floor to stop additional votes regarding the War Powers Authorization to potentially stop Donald Trump from this unlawful conduct, or at least bring it to the people's attention. MAGA Mike shuts down the House floor. Donald Trump lies, manipulates the market, calls up all the members of the press, makes up yet another fake deal that doesn't happen. But did you pay attention to what went down late last night? Did you see what went down? It was announced by Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, or I should say, there was a little footnote that went out the wire when people discovered that the United States was extending the revocation of sanctions against Russia. You know how Bessent said, we're going to keep those sanctions on against Russia after we have a deal. Well, now you're claiming there's a deal, which you obviously don't, and you've continued to remove the sanctions against Russia. Russia, the big beneficiary, the Russian sanctions, the sanctions on Russian oil removed, and now Russia could sell their oil and make billions and billions of dollars. So MAGA Mike shuts it down, and then Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's the one starting to, he's messaging this, and he's asked, so why aren't people feeling good about the economy? Watch what Bessent says as the House floor is shut down. Play this clip.
Yep. Why aren't we seeing this sentiment? Why are people feeling better?
Well, when I was in the investment business, there are consumer surveys, but I used to look at what are the people really doing. So at Treasury, we have loads of CEOs come through, whether they're in retail, credit card, the banks, and the consumer, while they may be sounding grim, is actually quite buoyant. Mm-hmm. So we are seeing spending has been very solid across most categories. So
they might not feel good, but...
Well, look, in their heart of hearts, they feel good. I'm not sure what they're telling the survey people.
And then you had Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, and Howard Lutnick starts to say that he hates people who suck. He's like, the worst thing is that there are sucking sounds and people keep sucking off and sucking. What is he talking about here? Play this clip.
The worst thing I learned when I went into government is the sucking sound of how many people try to suck off of the U.S. government. I mean, it's so demoralizing to watch that stuff. Look.
And then he says, don't you worry, everybody. 6% GDP growth. It's right around the corner. Here, play this clip.
Fundamentals of the U.S. economic underpinning remain, right? The war changed that model. It created fear and uncertainty. But the growth rate in the United States will hit 6% under Donald Trump's leadership. It will hit 6% annual GDP growth under Donald Trump's leadership.
But not this year.
Well, let's see. Let's see. I mean, you have today, if the Straits of Hormuz open.
There's always a band with like the Lutnick thing at the top, and then like you got Treasury down here and the Democrats down here, but you're holding it at 6%?
I am, because I know the commitments of build in America. I mean, the fact.
And then he says, Canada sucks. He goes, there's sucking sounds. Then he says, Canada sucks. And this is a weird regime. Here, play this clip right here.
The time is on our side because the pressures on the U.S. are only going to increase over time. Basically, you guys are in political trouble. The longer they wait, the better a deal you're going to have to do.
Good for them. That is like the worst strategy I've ever heard. They suck. Look. We are a $30 trillion economy, right? We are the consumer of the world. Okay? Carney has a problem with us. He gets on a plane and he goes to China. Does he think the Chinese economy is going to buy his stuff? China is entirely an export-driven economy, right? So what did he do? He came back and said, oh, we'll take their electric cars. I mean, is this nuts?
So as MAGA Mike shut down the House floor, you then have MAGA Republican Stutzman. He goes on CNN, and here's what he has to say. Play this clip.
President Trump is a tough negotiator. I mean, we've been really able to watch him negotiate almost as a general public through the Truth Social post. And there's days you're like, wow. But this is the way he negotiates. He's a tough negotiator, and he gets results.
Including threatening taking out an entire civilization.
Well, and you know what? That was one of the things that, they, as he said, they say death to Israel, death to America. And I think we have to take them seriously, and while they are a much smaller country and they don't have the capabilities that we do as Americans, we still have to take it seriously. And I think that those were the types of words that they understood what those meant. I believe that he never intended to do that, but it was simply the rhetoric to put them in a position of he means business.
I mean, you can't even admit that threatening an entire civilization is bad. You can't just say, no, we shouldn't be threatening to eliminate an entire civilization. That's called a genocide. What are these people doing? Then you have Jim Jordan saying, look, I just think the Democrats are crazy. They're crazy folks. They're crazy, crazy, crazy people. Hey, Jim Jordan, meet a mirror. Y'all are actually a bunch of lunatics. Here, play this clip.
No, I mean, I think we're going to win. I think we're going to win because the left, every position they take is crazy. I don't know if I said this on your show a few weeks ago, but I was doing some interview and I said, I think this election is really going to come down to a couple sentences. They're crazy, we're not. And you can look at every policy they have. We just talked about sanctuary jurisdiction policy. That's crazy. It makes absolute no sense. This idea that, we're going to defund ICE makes no sense. We're going to defund the police. That's crazy. We're going to have men compete against women in sports. That's crazy. We're going to shut down the government for 42 days in the fall, 50 some days here in the spring. All those things are crazy. So I do think we have to remind the voters that the left is crazy.
All right, let me tell you about something I've been loving lately. Article. I just got a new coffee table from them, and I'm not exaggerating when I say it completely pulled my living room together. I went with a mid-century modern style to match my home, and it fits perfectly. The design is super clean, really elevated, but still warm and functional, and the quality, you could feel it immediately. It's sturdy, the finish is smooth, the edges are clean, it just feels like a premium piece because it is. Even the packaging stood out. Everything was protected, thoughtfully packed, and it came mostly assembled, which made setup incredibly easy. Delivery was fast and their customer service was perfect. Great communication the whole way through. No guessing, no stress. What I like about Article is they make it easy. Their collections are curated so everything works together. You don't really have to be an interior designer to get a cohesive, stylish space. And they focus on quality over quantity so every piece feels intentional and built to last. Plus, they offer fast, affordable shipping, and if you need help, their customer care team is available 7 days a week, even offering design support, which was so so key for me. And there's a 30-day satisfaction guarantee, so you can shop with confidence. Article is offering our listeners $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. To claim, visit article.com/Meidas and the discount will be automatically applied at checkout. That's article.com/Meidas, MEIDAS, for $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more.
And then while that was taking place, the one hearing that was going on, and we've been covering it, and you got to give a hat tip to her, Democratic Congresswoman Summer Lee, her cross-examination of RFK Jr. So House floor shut down. There were still hearings taking place, and the MAGA Republicans wanted to hold their performative hearings and not actually address issues. But take a look at this cross-examination by Congresswoman Lee. Let's play this clip right here.
Your agency told programs to remove a list of nearly 200 words and phrases from their funding applications, including the word black. Do you have an idea of how we could solve the black maternal mortality crisis if we can't say black?
President Trump is trying to end division in this country, not division.
Not eviction.
During the last 4 years. That's what DEI did. It divided people. It polarized people.
No. We're not talking about eviction. We're talking about healthcare.
I'm calling about DEI.
We're talking about healthcare.
Yeah.
Disparities. So what we're asking is if you attack DE&I and then we have a crisis that impacts one population over another, but you cannot direct specific spending or research or interventions to that population, how do you solve the problem?
Do you think the federal government should be paying for DEI?
I think the federal government has a vested interest in ensuring that its citizens survive childbirth.
Well, we are meeting that obligation.
We are not.
Oh, that I can explain to you how we are.
You have not done so far. But also I would say that, we can improve healthcare for everybody at the same time as helping the people who are most likely to die. That's what DE&I, well, first of all, DE&I makes sure that we have black doctors, or women doctors, or that we're talking about the fact that we have a mortality rate that is not matched by any other country as what we would call developed as ours. Really quickly, and yesterday.
Now, what was going on with state regime media? Here's what Fox talked about in terms of foreclosures increasing. Play this clip.
According to Realtor.com, home foreclosures jumped 26% in the first 3 months of this year. The foreclosure rates were highest in Indiana, South Carolina, and Florida.
Back on CNN, Harry Enton had this ruh-roh moment. Let's play this clip.
It's the group that helped put him in the White House in 2016. And then again in 2024, the group that shifted tremendously from 2012 to 2016 and put him in the White House. We are talking about non-college white voters, and he is sliding right into the water. This is a ruh-roh moment, to quote the great Scooby-Doo. Trump's net approval rating with non-college whites. Look at this. In February of 2025, it was plus 32 points. Down it goes. Look at Johnny. Johnny is just shocked by this number. And now it is minus 2 points. That is a 34-point shift. And I will note this is an average of polls. This is not just one poll. I've averaged 3 different polls here, 3 big pollsters. And what we see is Donald Trump actually underwater with non-college whites who, of course, put him in the White House. Really moment? Yes, really, John.
Democratic Congress member Adam Smith had the following to say. Let's play it.
The president says Iran has said they're going to give up their any desire to have a nuclear weapon, and that they're going to give up their enriched uranium. There's absolutely no evidence of that, and it would be remarkable if they have already agreed to give up their enriched uranium. It's also remarkable that the president of the United States can say something like that, which seems on the face of it to just be ridiculous and it not be headlines. That the president of the United States is, if he is making something up of that magnitude, that's extraordinary, or it should be extraordinary.
Oh, God, that's just pure fantasy on his part. And look, this has been Trump. I mean, he's always saying stuff that's completely untrue, and somehow people have decided that's okay. It was never okay. All right, whatever the alternatives may have been, to have a president this disconnected from reality. I mean, remember, he's been saying for, what is it now, 9 years? 7 years, that Iran is begging him for a deal. They're begging him for a deal. And that was never true. So we have a president who doesn't even know what the truth is, leading us into a devastating and costly war. And we had a vote today in the House to end this war. And all of the Republicans just signed up and saluted and said, let's follow the guy who's just making it up as he goes along. It's a huge problem that I think we need a lot more pushback against.
And finally, you had state regime media, which calls itself Fox, attacking the Democratic Congresswoman-elect Mejia, who just won in New Jersey's open congressional seat. And this is how Fox attacks her. They go, and this Congresswoman-elect Mejia, she's against ICE. She accuses Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. She wants to impeach Justice Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. She believes in a $25 federal minimum wage. She wants to cancel all student loan debt. She wants to tax the wealthy. She wants universal health care. She wants universal child care. She's crazy. So just so you're all clear, when Jim Jordan and Trump and Bessent and Lutnick and state regime media refer to Democrats as crazy, the crazy policies that they claim are crazy, just pull up the photo, guys. Just so they're saying these policies are crazy when those policies are true and accurate and things that most Americans agree with right now, as they should. Play this clip of state regime. Let's play it.
Because Mejia, like AOC and Bernie Sanders, believe that America at its core is evil and corrupt. And of course, she wants to abolish ICE. She wants universal child care, universal health care, canceling all student debt, national minimum wage up to $25, impeach Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito. Now, this menu of destructive ideas is no longer considered, though, fringe in the Democrat Party. It's gone totally mainstream. It is a deep hostility to our country, to our history, to the capitalist system.
There you have it, folks. MAGA Mike shutting it down yet again, shutting down the House floor. No votes. It's so ridiculous. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 7 million subscribers. Thanks for watching.
New Meidas merch. Head to store.MeidasTouch.com today and get yourself the best pro-democracy gear and show your support. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.